Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. Hope you can hear me pretty well. It's a hot day in LA, so that air conditioning is staying on. But yeah, I was listening to Trevor Lane, and he was essentially saying that the Lakers had a few things that they want to do in the draft, potentially moving up to from 17 to a different spot sooner in the draft may allow for them to get the guy that they're telling everybody they're targeting, and Devin Carter. Now, I like Devin Carter. I'd love for the Lakers to acquire Devin Carter. I don't mind trading up for Devin Carter, but I don't believe the report. I don't believe it. The reason why I don't believe it is because I think what teams likely are more likely to do is tell people they want a certain guy when they really want someone else. Because all you're doing is signaling to everybody, hey, this is what I want. So if they want to screw you over, they're going to take what you want. Or if they like that player, they're going to try to position themselves to keep whatever position they can. If they have a sooner pick, they won't trade out of it. If they think the Lakers want to take Devin Carter and they were thinking about trading down, hoping Devin will be there, now that puts the story out there that the Lakers are going to try to mess up somebody else's plans. I heard the Chicago Bulls also were targeting Devin Carter or Mateus Buzelis. So after that news came out, now the Lakers are talking about they want Carter, and I've just seen stuff like this too many times. So I don't know if the Lakers are bluffing in this regard. Maybe they do want to trade up and get Carter, as to which I'd probably tell people I wanted to trade up and get somebody else if I were really targeting Carter. But I don't know. There's no perfect science to any of this when trying to speculate what teams are actually thinking. But most of the teams in the early rounds are looking to move around with their picks. I don't think that that's a false thought or hypothesis of what's going on right now in regards to this draft. I just think people are buying into the idea this is a bad draft and they're trading out of it because of it, or they want to move around because of it. It's understandable. I'm not saying it's a good draft or a great draft, but I'm telling you there's a lot of depth in the later stages of the draft. Between like 15 and 45, you're going to find a bunch of guys that I think are going to make the league and be good. Not good as a superstar, but good as role players, starters. And some of them dudes in the back of the draft are going to be better than some of the dudes in the front of the draft, if you ask me. So if you want to jump ahead of that, or because you don't know if some of the younger guys who are unproven, only like freshmen and stuff like that, some of the international prospects, if you don't trust that those guys are going to turn into anything, maybe you're more so targeting juniors and seniors from college and 5-year guys, that kind of thing. So I think that might be a thing in this league draft this year. So it's hard to really know. A lot of rumors, but I just know how teams tend to do fake outs when it's time for 2 or 3 weeks before the draft. Guys are like, yeah, I want this player. They don't actually want that player. They just want somebody to take that player, so the player that they're likely to truly want may be available on the board. And the Lakers also, from what I understand, if Devin Carter's not available, they want to target a big. Thing is, you don't necessarily have to trade out of our range in theory to get the big that you want. Edey should be available. Holmes should be available. Filipowski should be available. There's no bigs in the range that we would be likely trading up to. You're trading out of big range. So what I don't want the Lakers to do is to give up assets attached to 17, trade up, and then find ourselves taking somebody that would be available at 20. That's my concern. That is a worthy risk, though. I don't know that I don't trade up, but that could very well be what you end up doing. It could be very well what you end up doing. I heard the Lakers also like Ron Holland. They worked him out. I don't know how the workout went, but before the workout, it was obvious that bringing him in means that we were interested in him and thought maybe he could fall to us, or we could trade up and get him. So I'm inclined to believe that people they're working out are people they would likely be more likely to target. I don't know if Carter came in. He may have. But I think I would love to hear more reports of the Lakers working out even more guys. I just think the more hands-on experience you have in this draft, the more likely you are to make a good hypothesis on what it is you need in the short and long term. Do I target a junior or a senior in this draft? I think the truth of the matter is I found myself frustrated with JHS last year. And I know that you have to wait on him for 4 years. So if I'm going to bring in another project that I know I have to wait on for 4 years, I might just be as equally frustrated with that prospect if he can't help us this year. However, I understand that like the Chicago Bulls and like other teams in this league, our rebuild is likely around the corner, and you're going to need high-level talent, and you would have liked some of that talent to already be ready to go when your rebuild hits. In this situation, that's likely what you would be getting. A guy today that will be able to help you in 2027. Because in 2027, you want young talent, youthful talent with upside, tradable assets with upside, and then the ability to draft a high-level prospect that's probably going to take 4 years or 3 years to develop from that point. You see what I'm saying? So some of the core of what you're going to be using to try to run around with should be rounding into form by the time that comes around. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. I don't think we're going to be a contending team 3 years from now or 4 years from now. But what we draft right now, if it happens to be a guy that takes 3 years to develop, won't be the worst thing in the world for that time frame. So it depends on what your thought is. If you're really still trying to help this roster win, then you probably want to get something that can help this roster win. But 4 years from now, that player will be cool. They'll still be entering their prime, but likely doesn't have the upside of some of the guys you passed on, so that you can have that win now prospect that's ready to go. It's more upside with some of them dudes. It's going to take a little longer. So that's what I know. I don't think there's a perfect science to this Lakers situation, because we're kind of in a weird spot with no coach, no certainty of the older guy, LeBron James, coming back. No certainty of that. So you mess around and get some 4-year guy and then find yourself in a rebuilding situation sooner than you thought. That's why I just kind of ignore that aspect of it and just bring myself whoever I think is going to end up being the best player. If I happen to think that player's a 4-year guy, I bring him in. If I happen to think that guy's a freshman, I bring him in, because at the end of the day, damned if you do, damned if you don't, as far as I can tell. And also, because we have a pick this season, I don't want to trade the guy that I drafted last year at the 17th pick just to move up a few spots. Now, if I didn't have a pick at all, and it was choose between last year's lottery pick that we didn't really love versus having a pick this year for which we could possibly love, that would be a different story for me. But just to trade up a few spots, I'm going to throw in last year's 17 overall pick. You got to look at it like 2 first-round picks. And given the fact that we only have 3 plus JHS, if you want to count last year, I don't think that's the best use of your assets. Not your first rounders. You got to use your first rounders a bit more responsibly, in my opinion. And since JHS is only 20 years old, a big guard who's likely going to play some good minutes in this league very soon, not very soon, but at some point, you probably just stash him to the side as part of your youth movement and maybe look to move something else if you want to move up. That's my humble opinion. I'm not in love with JHS no more than most of Laker Nation is, but the reason why that is because we needed someone to help us last year, and he was not available to, and didn't look very good when we did use him in limited minutes, for which we never actually allowed him to play the point guard position, for which he's a point guard. So if you're going to get mad at the fact that Darvin Ham had him playing off ball and he didn't look well doing it, a lot of that has to do with how Darvin used the kid and how available he was, given the fact the injuries plagued most of his rookie season, both in the beginning and, of course, the back injury that he's recovering from the surgery of. So I'd imagine he's going to be ready in the start of the season. I think there's a decent chance he doesn't stay at the value he is right now, and that's about the safest statement I've made all throughout this video. JHS is not going to stay in this value range. He's going to improve because he's a young player with good size and two-way ability. So whatever you hated him being, just know that you're giving him away at dirt cheap value, and he's going to get a lot better wherever he's going. Even if you don't think that his ceiling is that high, all you got to do is wait a little bit longer, and his ceiling is going to start to show. So if you're going to give him away just to move up a few spots and then you find out the guy that you're targeting is gone, and now you end up taking somebody at 17 anyway, you essentially gave away his value for nothing. And if he turns into something tomorrow, that will historically go down as one of the worst trades possible. Bad enough we didn't do the right thing with the 17th overall pick last year, but you don't want to give it away at its lowest value, as if it's not going to get better, as if JHS is who you see him as right now forever. It's just not the best way to utilize the value that he's ultimately going to become. And given the fact that we are going to be rebuilding very soon, you probably want players like him on tab 3 years from now. So I would try to get away with not trading him. There are circumstances where I would be willing to trade him, just like most things. But for a team that expects to be rebuilding soon, you probably shouldn't be giving away a 20-year-old point guard that you took with a lottery pick or a first-round pick, rather. Not in year 2. When he didn't even get any minutes in year 1. No, you don't do that. So the Lakers may do that, but it ain't a smart decision, not in my opinion. Now, all things considered, he can continue having injury issues. He could suck, period, and it all goes to crap. But judging by what I saw last year from him when doing homework on the player, I don't expect him to be that bad. I don't expect him to be bad. I just wasn't a fan of his skill set. But I think he's a poised young man who has good basketball in his future, and I'd rather him be here as we've drafted him to be than to see him go to somewhere like Toronto and end up becoming what it is that I expect him to become. So that's really what it is. I think we'll be very happy if we keep Jalen Hood-Schifino on this team in the long run, especially if LeBron James leaves and we trade away Anthony Davis. You're going to want a player like that on your team. You are. Just off the strength of his age and his upside, given the fact that he was drafted 17 last year and was supposed to be. All things considered, that was good value for what it was that he was scouted to be. So we haven't seen anything good out of him yet, but a lot of that had to do with Darvin Ham's usage of the player and the injuries. So if you're worried about the back injury, that would be my biggest concern. But he's only 20 years old. So there's a long way to go before we're concerned about him long term. We're a long way away from that. So that's really what it is. If they know something about the back that would make it so that we should probably let go of the kid, then with that intel, I would be willing to let go of the kid. But otherwise, absolutely not. And I'm not high on him, and y'all know that. But I'm not just giving him away just to move up a few spots in a bad draft. I'm not doing that. So that's what I think the Lakers should not do. Don't have recency bias with a player that you haven't even seen him to become what he's going to become. Plus, when he was in the G League, he looked great. Not just good, but fantastic. Yeah, that's not somebody you should be just throwing into any trade. That's not going to bring you back nothing but another prospect like him, basically. Plus, I look at Jalen Hood-Schifino and Devin Carter. If the Lakers are serious about having Devin Carter, that's a nice backcourt. They both have some size on them. They both have two-way ability. They both should be able to develop to hit shots. I don't need Devin Carter in place of Jalen Hood-Schifino. I need him next to Jalen Hood-Schifino 3 years from now. That's what I need. So that's what's on my mind. I do not want the Lakers to trade Jalen Hood-Schifino, just like I didn't want us to draft Jalen Hood-Schifino. And now that we got him, I value him as a 17th overall pick last year who hasn't had a chance to show that he doesn't have the same upside he did last year. I don't know that he doesn't, especially if he fully heals from the back, which I have reason to believe he should be able to. So that's why I wouldn't necessarily throw him in. Not unless we're getting back some really great value, but to move up, nah, I'm not doing that. So that's really what it is. Would I rather have Devin Carter or Jalen Hood-Schifino? Devin Carter. But I don't have to think that way because I do have a pick this year. You feel me? If the chances that Devin Carter falls to 17 are greater than the chances of me being happy I gave up Jalen Hood-Schifino at 20 years old for a chance at Devin Carter, for which I may not even get if I trade up. You see what I'm saying? If I'm weighing the two risks, the risk of giving up a 20-year-old point guard is a little bit greater to me than the risk of missing out on a player that may be available in my range if I don't do anything at all. So that's really what it is. If you like Devin Carter that much, though, maybe you increase that. And I do. I like him, but not enough to be giving away 20-year-old centers, point guards. So, yeah, man, that's really what it is, especially since we're sending out a point guard. And look, if people are saying, well, you're gonna probably pick up a point guard at a superstar level anyway, you're probably gonna target a point guard somewhere down the road. I don't have a problem with telling you guys that I don't know that Jalen Hood-Schifino can't play backup role for his entire career. I said that from the beginning. I wouldn't have gave away Ty Lue early in his career. I wouldn't have gave away Jordan Farmar early in his career, and I think Jalen Hood-Schifino could be better than both of those dudes. So if I think that, then it's like I still have value for a backup point guard, even if I am bringing in a superstar point guard. Plus, Jalen Hood-Schifino is big enough to play the two as well. So, and he's a connective piece that should get others involved and take advantage of the mid-range, for which I really like. So it's a lot of stuff about Jalen that ain't bad at all. And when he develops into what it is he's supposed to be, he's going to be a killer that attacks areas that are often not guarded properly. Mid-range pull-up areas. You can get easy buckets if you master that shot. So that's why I like Jalen Hood-Schifino. That is what I like about Jalen Hood-Schifino. So, yeah, man, we haven't seen what he can do. We don't know what he can do. We really don't. I personally think if he reaches his highest point, he's like a poor man's Jalen Brunson, based on the way that he attacks and his overall size. He is that. That's exactly what he is. So if you give him away, and he turns into what it is I think he's going to turn into, that's on you. You did that. You shouldn't have. So, yeah, man, hold on to him. I don't expect nothing out of him this season, but I'm not holding on to him because I want him to help me this season. I'm holding on to him because I want him to help me in our rebuild, and the rebuild is imminent. That's coming. So have as much good talent as possible. I'm not really giving away none of my young players, man. I'm just going to be honest with you, and I know that's tough because we don't have the assets to really do a lot. But guys like Jalen Hood-Schifino, Max Christie, of whom I hope we can re-sign, Max Lewis. I'm not trading Max Lewis in this situation either. Those guys are off limits, man. I look at them as valuable role players of my future, and I'm gonna need as many of them dudes as possible upon my rebuild. As many of them. When our team is depleted of stars, which is imminent, and we trade Anthony Davis for picks and whatever happens to LeBron, those are the players that are gonna be running around for you. That's who you have. So if you give all them dudes away, trying to get whatever you're trying to get today, you're depleting yourself of that value, which is going to be very important tomorrow. The fullness of a 7 or 8 man rotation is what you would be mortgaging to get maybe 1 or 2 guys at that same age. You see what I'm saying? So I can add Devin Carter to that crew. I'm more so looking to shop some of the older guys, to be honest with you. Rui Hachimura is probably on the move. Vanderbilt's probably on the move. I'm married to the idea of keeping Austin Reeves, but he's probably on the move. If I'm rebuilding, these guys they're going to go find other homes, because if I'm preparing myself for 2027, 2028, 2029 to be in a tank situation, those guys are going to be gone anyway. They're going to want to be in winning situations, and I'm preparing for my rebuild. You see what I'm saying? Austin's going to want to win. He's used to playing with Bron and AD. He's not going to be happy on a team with Jalen Hood-Schifino, Carter, Max Christie, and that's it, and him, and he's supposed to be leading the crew to a losing season. He's not going for that. He was a 4-year guy when we drafted him. So that's something we need to be honest about. And he's already mentioned, even in this offseason, as long as we're on pace to get a championship, he's happy. Well, my brother, I'm not. I'm on the path to rebuild so that I can build a champion, a real one. So that's why I know Austin Reeves is likely out the door at some point before this process begins. He's on his way out. Maybe not this offseason, but he's not going to retire a Laker, unfortunately, because this is where we're headed. We're headed to a severe rebuild. And that is all my mind is really prepared for. And so, Anthony Davis, you're going to be out, bro. LeBron James, we already know you're gonna make your decision. But Anthony, too, it's just the most of what our cap is made up of are those 2 players. So if I'm going to reset my situation, I only got 3 picks. I need more picks to reset my situation. Anthony Davis is going to get me those picks in theory, if people don't lowball us, or if he don't get hurt and decrease his own value. But this is why you start the rebuild sooner. This is why, because you're teetering on the idea that these players can maintain value as they get older. You probably don't want to risk that. You feel me? That's why I probably move those people now and just start the rebuild now. Because if I go through another season of Anthony Davis and he gets massively hurt, now I can't trade him for picks. Now my rebuild is going to be significantly set back with really no path to getting better. So to cut back on any of those risks, I start my rebuild sooner. I'm telling you, I do. I start my rebuild sooner, man. Just like I would have traded LeBron James at the halfway point last year for picks, and we wouldn't be in this situation where he could skedaddle for nothing. I'd probably trade Anthony Davis sooner than later for picks, just in case he would otherwise get hurt and decrease in value to where I can't get picks. I can't afford for him to do that. That's really what it comes down to. I can't afford for that. So if we, and I'm going to say this with responsible words, I'm going to say this responsibly. If we had a GM that was set to make sure our future was bright as possible, I really believe all this stuff would already be in motion, man. I really do. This would be a poor season for the Lakers. Even though the pick is not going to the Lakers next year, which is frustrating, I'm going to weigh that against the risk of Anthony Davis possibly getting hurt and being depleted of his value that's set at right now. That's what I'm weighing that against. It's like, yeah, you're tanking, but you can't get your pick. Yeah, but if I hold on to him for a year and he gets hurt, I ain't getting no picks for him. Gotta weigh both. So, yeah, man. I'm a different type of mind when it comes to this basketball building thing. I am. I don't play around when I don't have a lot. If I only got 3 picks to use, I'm certainly not trading them for some dude that I can't trade for more than 3 picks at some point. Which means I'm not bringing in Donovan Mitchell, because he's already showing me signs of wear and tear. He may be a superstar from here on out, but he's not getting better. He's just a star. You see what I'm saying? It's wear and tear now. From here, it's like, can he maintain his level, or is he going to start dropping off? That's where we're at with a guy like Donovan Mitchell. Trae Young, a little younger, probably hasn't had his best ball ahead. Kind of the same, though, wear and tear. I would trade those guys for Banchero, right? Because I know Banchero is still developing, heading upward. Guys that were drafted over the last several years, obviously a Wembanyama or something like that would be crazy. But some of these dudes that we know as superstars right now, because I've been watching the NBA closely for all my life, I've seen guys come and go, come and go, come and go. You would have traded the farm for Tracy McGrady. He was 5 minutes away from not being worth that. You would have traded the farm for Stephon Marbury. He was 5 minutes away from not being that. And so because I've seen enough of this in my life, I just kind of know better than to be so in love with. Like, you would have traded the farm for James Harden when he was a Rocket. He was 5 minutes away from not. You see what I'm saying? You can't be in love with a guy who's reached his ceiling or a guy in his prime for the sake of our circumstances, for which we need to be able to trade some of these dudes 2 years from now for picks. They ain't going to be worth what you're getting them for, and you're just doing it to help the team that you have right now win, which is not my mentality. I'm not. I'm looking to move on past these people. I'm not doing nothing just for them that could hurt me tomorrow. Tomorrow's the most important thing. Why? Because I don't have a future. People got to understand the Lakers don't have a future. If they mortgage more of their picks, it's going to be hard for us to get picks from others, because others know how bad we want picks, and they're not going to help us out of the situation. Brooklyn's in that situation right now. Phoenix is likely going to be in that situation going forward unless they trade Devin Booker for picks or Kevin Durant for picks, and they only got 3 more minutes to do that. Like, these are the things you don't want. You don't want to be in their situation. They don't have no hope of getting better, and they can't build nothing. They can have all these dreams, all these things that they want, and they can't get none of it. So it's like, you don't ever want to find yourself in that situation. That is exactly where we're headed. If we do nothing at all, in my opinion, that's exactly where we're headed. So, yeah, man, I'm just trying to get out in front of it. I don't think the Lakers are. I think they're hell-bent on doing things the opposite way, hoping for the best for this era, and then letting us be horrible in 2030, 21. Like, that's what I think these franchise front office is about. They're more so about the optics of doing things rather than doing things correctly, and I'm just not. If I can't afford to keep what I have, I'm moving on. And I'm going to position myself with every move I make to do that. So I'm not going to be trading Jalen Hood-Schifino. I'm not trading Max Lewis. I'm re-signing Max Christie at a low price if possible. And I'm moving on from everything that's old or in its prime. Like, everything. And I'm trying to recoup with something that is going to be increasing in value over the years that I likely don't have picks. So I'm gonna want somebody in year 1 right now, so they'll be good in 2027. I'm gonna want somebody in year 3 right now, so they can be good next year when we don't have picks. That way, I can trade them if I want to for that pick to get in those drafts. That's an important positioning for yourself. The way the situations are set up, you don't have picks in those years. So what you want to be able to do is have value that you can trade for first round picks in those years. So maybe you don't agree with my assessment of the risk of Anthony Davis not being healthy. That might be a thing. Like, why would I trade Anthony Davis right now? I can just trade him when LeBron James skedaddles, whenever that is. And that you know, that's a preferential thing as far as I could tell. Weighing that risk is just me looking at the data over the last 11 years. That he's coming off a really healthy season. How many of those has he had? You know what I'm saying? How many years have we seen him play 70-plus games? I just don't think that's something you can count on, especially since he's playing Olympic ball this summer. And so, do I think the catastrophic injury could come? I think the catastrophic injury can come for all players, any player. So that's not necessarily what I'm worried about. But I have to look at the data that's already been in place to gauge whether or not it's a good risk in our situation to go forward with him having most of our cap wrapped up in him and his ability to stay healthy. It just don't feel like the greatest risk based on how much we've already lost in equity. Based on the fact that LeBron James likely not going to net us anything upon his departure. Because people are either going to let him retire in the uniform or he's going to skedaddle right now to Philly or New York or something like that. So I get nothing for him, and now everything's wrapped up in Anthony Davis. Because he's the only real valuable thing that we got. Everything else is just nice players. You know, not going to be able to upstart your rebuild by trading those guys. You're not going to. So those assessments will determine just how terrible you're going to be when your rebuild starts. If you let Anthony Davis value go to nothing and LeBron James value go to nothing, you will have a bad team for about 7 years. You will. It's not a question. You don't have the assets to get better. And the way the landscape can change with new players coming in, you never know when the next dynasty might be developed. You will go on a 20-year straight streak with no championships, no new talent coming into you, nothing. You're going to be bad forever. And it's going to feel that way anyway. And so bad GMing in 2024 will put you in that position in the 2030s, and I'm just not having it. If I'm running things, it's never going to happen. I'll throw away today twice before I let us be bad tomorrow. I kid you not. And you'll thank me for it too. So that's really what I have to say, man. I hope the Lakers are thinking like me. I hope they have their full assessment of what they're looking at. I hope they're weighing things properly. I hope people are prepared for changes, because those changes, if we're doing things correctly, are imminent. But as far as me giving away young talent, even if they're not marginally high ceiling young talent, I'm still not necessarily doing that when I know what's ahead. The best thing you can have in your rebuild is what we had before Brian got here, which was like 7 or 8 nice young players. All in rotation, fun to watch. Weren't winning games, but I think a lot of that had to do with the intentions to tank and the coaching situation with Luke Walton, which was awful. It's like pure awful. So that's really what I have to say, man. I hear that J.J. Redick's job interview is today with the Lakers. Dallas won yesterday. They won by a lot. 3rd largest margin in the history of the NBA Finals. So they prolonged their series, which means he has more obligations. He will be calling a game on Monday. So I don't know if that changes the plans. If it doesn't and they hire him this weekend, why did it take so long is the question. If him and his finals obligations are not a roadblock, what the hell? Literally, what the hell? So that's what's on my mind right now, man. But I'm all on board with moving up if it doesn't require us giving up Jalen Hood-Schifino, last year's pick, Max Lewis, guys like that. I can have the Lakers move up a different way and be very okay with that. So yeah, man, some of these guys, man, I like our players, but they're not good enough to get us over the hump, man. They just not, bro. They're not. And I don't want to hear nothing about, well, we were missing guys. I know that's the assessment. The full assessment of what we're talking about is the fact that we were missing guys and likely be missing guys this year too, if we keep the same guys. So that's it. Durability is important. Durable. We need guys who can stay upright. People who have the history and the gene of taking care of themselves physically, not anything less than that. We need athletes, and you know what I mean by that is athletic specimens that are likely going to stay healthy. So I don't know how you find that, but we need to do that. I don't want layup merchants. You know what I mean? Guys that have the athleticism I have, but just more talent in basketball. No. You gotta be upright, bro. We need that. Because we can't afford for our assets to be so fragile when we don't have the value outside of the players on the court. So that's really what it is, man. These are things that I think about a lot as I assess my team, and I hope you guys appreciate the video I've put here, and I got plenty other stuff there behind as well. And of course, we'll be talking about the draft. The mock draft will be coming up pretty soon. Still gathering my intel on this draft. Still waiting to see if any pre-draft moves will be made that will change the trajectory of what it is we're assessing. Because I do think some trades could be made before the draft. So I'm kind of holding out on my mock draft in hopes that some of those moves will be made. But there will be a lot of draft day trades anyway, so that only but so much matters. So that's really where we're at, man. BDF44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.